Today we will be exploring, is the Earth actually conscious? We've been taught that it isn't. For most of human history, we've assumed the Earth is a backdrop, a stage for human life, a setting for our stories, a resource, a landscape, something that we stand on. But what if that assumption is incomplete? What if the Earth isn't where life happens, but part of something far more participatory, intimate, responsive, and interwoven? In this video, we will explore that possibility, not as a belief system, but as a pattern worth considering. Is the Earth conscious? Because if the question isn't as absurd as it may sound at first, then it changes how we understand ourselves. And if it is conscious, what does that mean for humanity and for our shared future? I'm not asking you to accept anything prematurely. Just stay with the inquiry, because even sitting with the question begins to shift the way that we see the world. When we hear the word conscious, we usually imagine a human mind, thoughts and self-awareness, emotions, reflection. But consciousness may not be all or nothing. It's not something you either have or don't have. It expresses across layers and dimensions and degrees of coherence. Some traditions would even go further and suggest that consciousness is not merely an emergent property of matter, but the organizing principle behind it, a kind of underlying intelligence woven into reality itself. You might call that divine intelligence, or simply fundamental awareness. The language matters a lot less than the pattern. Across cultures and disciplines, there's a reoccurring intuition that the universe is not random chaos assembling itself accidentally, but a coherent unfolding, structured, relational, responsive. Whatever we interpret that, however we interpret that, spiritually or scientifically, the suggestion is similar. Intelligence may be deeper than the human mind. Personally, I lean towards the view that intelligence may be far, far deeper, perhaps even limitless in scope. And that is something that each of us gets to examine and explore intimately in our own quiet, careful, and intentional contemplation. At some point, the word consciousness begins to stretch beyond neurology. Not just awareness as a function of the brain, but intelligence as a structuring force, something intrinsic to reality itself. Not a deity in the sky, but an organizing, coherent presence in the unfolding life. You don't have to adopt that language, but if consciousness emerges from the Earth, and the Earth emerges from the cosmos, then whatever is expressing through us may be more fundamental than biology alone. And if that's even partially true, then awareness would not be limited to human thought. It would express in different ways at different scales. A nervous system has one kind of awareness. A forest ecosystem has another. A planet-wide climate system may express yet another. The Earth regulates its temperature, it maintains atmospheric balance, it responds to disturbances. It self-adjusts through feedback loops that operate across vast spans of time. That alone does not prove consciousness, but it does suggest something more than inert machinery. I want to tell you a personal story. When I was around 13, maybe 14 years old, I was walking through the forest with my dog Rampage. And I remember becoming suddenly aware of how alive everything felt. Not metaphorically alive, like actually alive. The trees and the air, the quiet movements of the forest. And more than that, I knew that the forest was aware of me, being aware of it. And not watching in a human way, not thinking, but present. We were aware of one another, being aware of one another. It was so, in that sense, it was responsive and even caring. I remember feeling a deep peace and a gratitude, like a mutual recognition. We are aware of one another. And I wanted my dog to feel it too. I remember asking the trees silently for that same awareness and recognition to be shared with him. And immediately he stopped and he looked up at the trees. He became still and quiet in observation and recognition of life with me. The soul of life was literally, quite literally, having a moment with itself. Something bigger than all of us was participating through us and reflecting through us. Something that strikes me is that the force wasn't thinking. It was awareness that felt relational, as if consciousness wasn't isolated inside of me, but something we were participating in together. So, thank you, and let's return. Biologists speak of homeostasis, the capacity of a living system to regulate itself. Ecologists describe immense networks of interdependence where forests communicate through fungal, mycelial systems beneath the soil. Geologists track tectonic plates that move in slow pattern rhythms over millions of years, reshaping continents and climates in ways that appear almost deliberate, though not intentional in the human sense. The question isn't whether the earth behaves like a human mind. The question is whether intelligence or consciousness must look like a human mind at all. I don't think so. In fact, absolutely, of course not. The mind is a beautiful, beautiful tool of consciousness once it is trained to be receptive. And there will be a lot more on that in later episodes. For now, evolution, as we understand it, moves towards increasing complexity, from simple particles to atoms, to molecules, to cells, to organisms, to nervous systems, to reflective awareness, to being aware of ourselves, including our intentions and our motives for them. Human self-awareness didn't appear out of nowhere. It appeared within a long arc of increasing complexity, but that doesn't necessarily mean consciousness began here. It may be more accurate to say that consciousness, or what some traditions would call an organizing intelligence, is woven into the fabric of the universe itself, expressing through matter in progressively intricate forms. In that view, consciousness doesn't originate from the earth. It manifests through it, just as it manifests through stars, ecosystems, nervous systems, and eventually reflective minds. The earth becomes one stage, not the source, but a living expression of a deeper intelligence unfolding. And if that's true, then our awareness is not separate from the planet, nor is it separate from the cosmos. It is an expression of an organizing principle moving through layers and dimensions of form. What an experience we get to have if we choose to go deep and focus. If consciousness is an organizing intelligence expressing through form, then the earth is not a passive object within that process. It is a dynamic participant. The planet evolves. Its climates shift. Its ecosystems reorganize. Its geological layers transform over vast stretches of time. Evolution is not only biological, it is planetary. And just as human consciousness develops through stages and dimensions, it's not unreasonable to consider that planetary consciousness evolves as well. Not in a human way, but in a systemic one, through increasing complexity, interdependence, and self-reflection, kind of like the Avatar movies. And if that's true, then our own awareness may not be isolated from that evolution. Human consciousness and planetary consciousness may be far more intertwined than we've yet realized. Not separate processes, but reciprocal expressions of a deeper unfolding. As we become more coherent, more reflective, more responsible, the planet changes. And as the planet changes, it shapes us in return. the relationship is not linear, it's interwoven. And before that sounds mystical, consider something simpler. Humanity studies forests, we study oceans, we map tectonic plates, we measure magnetic fields, we examine ecosystems in extraordinary detail. But if we are expressions of this planet, then this is not an outsider observing an object. It may be a system reflecting on itself. Through us, the earth sees its own forests. Through us, it studies its own atmosphere. Through us, it asks questions. I'm not asking you to believe this literally. I'm asking you to consider this pattern. Evolution produces increasing awareness, and awareness eventually turns back onto its source. A nervous system becomes self-reflective. A species becomes self-questioning. What if a planet can do something similar through its most complex organisms? That doesn't mean we project human traits onto the planet. It doesn't mean that tectonic plates have intentions or emotions. So stay with me as we go deeper. Some thinkers have approached this from the idea of different directions. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet with over 14,000 trance readings, suggested relationships between the human collective states and planetary change. Whether interpreted symbolically or literally remains an open question, although he's amazing. David R. Hawkins described consciousness, who, by the way, was a pioneer in consciousness research, its stages, including and not limited to enlightenment and the deepest levels of suffering. He described consciousness as fundamental rather than derivative. Joe Dispenza, a modern teacher who's absolutely wonderful and I highly recommend if you don't know already, he explores measurable coherence between mind, body, and environment. You don't have to agree with any of them to notice something interesting. Across disciplines, the idea continues to surface that consciousness may not be confined to individual minds or skulls. We learn from plants. We learn from forests, from minerals, from geometry, from structure, and from patterns. And perhaps learning is reciprocal. If humanity is a natural extension of Earth's evolutionary process, then our awareness could represent a new layer of planetary intelligence. Not separate, not superior, just simply emergent. What may be to come is up to us yet. We are temporary forms, visitors in that sense. But we are not just visitors. We arise from the same carbon, the same iron, the same ancient star-forged elements that shape this planet. And in that way, we are the Earth and we are literally the universe, reorganized into reflection. And this is where the question becomes ethical. If we are separate, then exploitation kind of makes sense from a careless place. That said, if we are expressions of the same living system, then harm becomes self-inflicted. That's not sentimental, it's structural. A species disconnected from its own nervous system destabilizes its environment. A species that becomes coherent behaves differently. Perhaps planetary awakening isn't about dramatic events or cosmic timelines. Perhaps it's about coherence, about recognizing and recontextualizing that consciousness did not arrive here from somewhere else. It emerged here from everywhere and is manifesting and learning. And what emerges from this system as Earth is a part of that system. Also, the universe. The real question isn't whether the Earth is conscious in the narrow way we define the word. The real question is whether our definition has been too small If consciousness is an organizing intelligence woven into reality itself, expressing through matter in layers and dimensions, then Earth is not outside that intelligence. It is one of its living expressions, and it may be far more aware in ways we do not yet fully comprehend than our current language allows us to describe. We're not separate from that. We're not separate from that as a process, and we're not isolated from it. The awareness we experience is not happening apart from the planet. It is happening within it, as it, not the Earth thinking in human sentences, but awareness unfolding through form, growing towards its potential. All right, so let's ground it a little bit. Imagine the atmosphere circulating, the oceans regulating, life evolving, mineral becoming memory, memory becoming reflection. We are one articulation of that unfolding, not above it, not outside it, and not detached from it. And if that sounds poetic, well, maybe it is. But poetry has always been one way that consciousness attempts to articulate what logic alone cannot fully contain. The real question may not be whether the Earth is conscious. The real question is, what happens when we begin living as if it is? What becomes possible when consciousness doesn't stop at the human mind, when we're willing to expand our definition of life and consciousness enough to include the planet itself and all of her species, including everybody. That's a big step for consciousness to make in an individual. That said, if consciousness is everywhere, then that's likely the direction that consciousness is guiding us. What kind of relationship do we step into once we recognize Earth as a living presence? Once we understand that, we're participating in a whole new way, and we actually have the opportunity in front of us to step into our potential individually and collectively. And that, my friends, is probably the coolest thing, literally, that could ever happen.